The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now logged into WarUp on the WPIAL, featuring your hosts, Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome back for a brand new edition of WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson. Jeff, you're back from Hershey. How did the trip go?
It was great. It was a great weekend, a long weekend of wrestling, but got to see a lot of good action and glad to be back and recuperating. But yeah, it's always a fun time. I love the team state tournament, so you're never going to hear me say a real bad thing about it.
With the addition of Flow, how were the stands? Were they a little less filled because all the matches were on Flow?
You know, that's a good question. I don't think it was any less than it had been in years past, and I don't think it was any more than it had been in years past. It looked like an average stadium, if you will, but I did notice on the first day, Hamburg brought their entire town, like their one section was just filled. Traditionally Boiling Springs, if they're there, they'll bring a full section with them because you have those local teams. But no, I thought the crowd was good. I thought that the fans were there and had a good time. So yeah, I don't know how much flow really affected that, but always we'd like to see the stadium packed.
In AA, the championship came down to the two favorites, just as expected, Reynolds and Southern Columbia. Reynolds winning that 31-23 to three-peat as champions, 3 in a row for Reynolds. The teams from the WPIAL Best Center does not get to make the trip to Hershey. They fall just short. A tight match on Monday night. They lost to Conneaut area. Freedom, meanwhile, in the opening round, they dropped a 51-21 loss to Chestnut Ridge, while Burrell was able to win in the round of 16, 42-15 over Newport.
Yeah, and that match with Chestnut Ridge that Freedom had, Chestnut Ridge is just a really special team. They were able to get some big wins in that match. ZJ Ward did have a win for Freedom, as did Kenny Dushek over Luke Moore, and Trent Schulteis was able to get a fall, as was Bryson Miller. But at the end of the day, they just didn't have enough for Chestnut Ridge.
Yeah, Chestnut Ridge, a very solid team. Burrell, with their win, moved into the quarterfinals where they wrestled Saucon Valley, who did defeat Muncie in the opening round, and they drop a tight decision, 32-25 in the quarters.
Yeah, and I thought this one was going to come down to who was able to win those toss-up matches. And early on, it looked like Burrell was that team. They won 5 straight, 106-126. Brian Gohl actually holds Josh Jones to a decision, which I thought was impressive. Then AJ Corrado got a big win over Thomas Spurk. He beat him 3-0. But then Saucon Valley was really able to expose some of those weights that Burrow's not as strong at, 45, 52, and 60. They gave up a match at 160. Dante McAfee won 2-1 over Dominic Holmes, which was a really toss-up match. It was a critical match. So, unfortunately, Saucon Valley just kind of ran away with it, winning the last four matches.
So you look at the consolation and where they fell. Freedom wrestled Greenville in the first round of consolations. They dropped a 39-24 decision. So unfortunately 0-2 for Freedom at Hershey. But Burrell, meanwhile, they went on a little bit of a run. They defeated Conneaut area 42-26, and then they defeat Westmont Hilltop 38-12 before they would wrestle Chestnut Ridge with the opportunity, the winner going to the third and fourth place match. But they fall just short. They drop a 32-29 decision.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with Burrell and the wrestle background, the way they're able to come out with some big wins time after time, because you never know how teams can respond after losing in that championship round. Get a little down. It's a quick turnaround, but Burrell was able to be up for the task, and which you kind of expect Josh Shields and his staff to have them ready. And this year was no different, but they had a big win over Westmont Hilltop. In fact, they really had no trouble with them, 38-12. And Westmont Hilltop they're one of the best teams out of District 6, and they had no real issues with them. But then that match with Chestnut Ridge, man, that was a fun match. Chestnut Ridge and Burrell, if they could wrestle 5 times a year, I'd go to it because, they just – and it's funny because Eric Knobstein and I were talking about this, and the Brookville duels got canceled because of snow earlier this year. But if you look at it, these teams that were supposed to go to the Brookville duels all wrestled essentially here at the state tournament. You had Chestnut Ridge against Burrell. You had Chestnut Ridge against Brookville. You had Reynolds versus, some of the top teams that were going to be there. So it was kind of interesting to see, but that Burrell and Chestnut Ridge match, a lot of fun to watch that. It came down towards the end. And at the end of the day, Chestnut Ridge just was able to get it done.
Yeah, you look at it, 3 of the top 4 teams would have been there at the Brookville duels that medaled at Hershey and Burrell in the top 6, and they all would have been there at that at the duels. You look at how it came down again. It was just those big weights, 170, 182, 220, 285. That's where it really came down to. And a couple of tight wins ended up going the way of Chestnut Ridge as well, 113 and 120. Nate Holderbaum beating Nick Salerno, 12-8, and then Ross Dahl beating Trent Velocic, which really came down to a last 10 seconds where he got that takedown. But they win those 2, and it really just put it away.
Yeah, if you don't win that 13 and 20, if Chestnut Ridge doesn't win those 2, I can't see them winning this match. I mean, with a difference of only 3 points, obviously that you look at that and it's a swing either way. But yeah, Trent Velocic had a tough one with Ross Dahl, and like you said, that was kind of back and forth. And Nick Salerno as well. I thought he was going to beat Holderbaum. It just turned out that, those guys wrestle tough. Chestnut Ridge, and I wrote about this recently. I just said they're like the Gonzaga of team wrestling, because when they show up to the Giant Center, they're firing on all cylinders. It doesn't matter who's on their team. They may not be superstars. They may not all be ranked even in the region. Those guys come to wrestle, and you're going to get guys like Nathan Holderbaum and Ross Dahl to come out and get some wins. It's just a matter of what they do. And not saying Burrell didn't do that, because I was pleasantly surprised with how Burrell wrestled. I was very impressed with the way Burrell was able to come out and compete, because of all the 13 championships they've won, this year probably wasn't the strongest, it wasn't the weakest of their teams, but it was one that they had to prove, that they were capable of doing something on the state level, and they did that to me this weekend.
Yeah, they wrestled really well, and I think they were on the outside of that top 4 coming into this tournament. They just needed that one big win, and they came close 2 different times. Both of them were very tight losses, so they're highly competitive. And definitely, although they don't come away with a medal, which is I know what they've been earning, trying to get for so many years here over the last few, is the effort and the opportunity was there for them, and they did a great job. They did represent WPIAL well, I thought.
And if history repeats itself, which it has for the last 12, 13 years, there's a good chance Burrell will be able to have another shot at that and getting that medal. And, of course, they return a good amount as well. So, never count out the Burrell Bucks.
Meanwhile, in AAA, Bethlehem Catholic repeats as champions as they knock off Northampton 31-19. Kiski area falling just short. Let's talk about those WPIAL teams. Cannon McMillan, first off, they wrestled in the round of 16, and they dropped a big decision to Cedar Cliff 43-16. Meanwhile, Seneca Valley beat Mifflin County 35-24, and Kiski beat Owen J. Roberts 50-12.
Yeah, that Cannon Mac Cedar Cliff match, I think I was the one who said last week this was going to be a tight match, and it was going to be a good one. And, I kind of ate crow on that one. That did not turn out that way. It was actually a pounding by Cedar Cliff. Cannon Mac just, and unfortunately Cannon Mac's not at full strength, right? They're missing some guys. They're missing Jacob Gardner. The fact of the matter is Cedar Cliff came out to wrestle, and they came out strong, winning that 43-16 match. They got all the big wins. They got bonus points where they needed them. J.J. Wilson, Kenny Heyman was definitely the premier match. That was a good one. J.J. Wilson won 1-0, and actually was on a penalty point. So I know Kenny Heyman wasn't quite pleased with that result. But at the end of the day, Cannon Mac just wasn't able to get it done against Cedar Cliff, who is a tough team. Seneca Valley, on the other hand, they had their hands full with Mifflin County. Seneca Valley was 100% shorthanded here. With the lineup that they have, they like to get Hunter Swedish in at 106 and then bump up. But Chan Shear is out. He hadn't been in there since the WPL tournament. And Drew Vlasnik was only in there for, I think, a match, and then he was not in there the rest of the week. So, not having a guy like Chan Shear when you're already pretty beat up top in your lineup, because we said from 106 to 152 they're solid, but you lose 2 guys in there like Chan Shear and Drew Vlasnik, you're already sinking. You're taking in water essentially.
Right, and they definitely struggled from there on out, as we'll talk about in a second. Meanwhile, you look at Kiski area, their big win over Owen J. Roberts put them into the quarterfinals. Seneca Valley, meanwhile, wrestled Bethlehem Catholic in the quarters and dropped a 52-11 decision.
Yeah, and you talked about that Kiskari and Owen J. Roberts match, and it wasn't a competitive dual meet per se, but there was a lot of good one-on-one matches there. And right off the bat, you had two guys ranked highly in the nation, or I'm sorry, in the state, two guys that have been in the national ranks before, and that is Dan Mancini of Owen J. Roberts, who wrestled Cam Connor. That's a number 1 versus number 3 in the state, and Dan Mancini really looked good in an 8-1 decision over Cam Connor, who we had talked with last week on the show. Jack Bloomer had a nice win over Connor Quinn, kind of took it to him, but the biggest one was Patrick McCutcheon from Owen J. Roberts knocking off Nick Delp 4-2. It was quite of an interesting match there. Nick Delp didn't kind of look like himself, but really good to see where these guys stack up against the rest of the state.
Yeah, and really to have two of your big three guns end up losing matches and still win big was a good opportunity for Kiski to show that they had strength in other areas. Mentioned Bethlehem Catholic knocking off Seneca Valley 52-11, and Kiski beating Cathedral Prep in the quarters 39-30.
Yeah, and that score is a little deceiving because they actually forfeited 4 weights here. They forfeited Karstraki, then they forfeited 220, 285. 106 and 113. So actually five weight classes here. So, I heard some folks saying, that's not right. They should wrestle somebody, and which to some extent I agree. It's if you have somebody else, if you don't want to put your starter in, like at least put somebody out there. But that's a coach's decision, and that's something that they wanted to do to prepare for that evening session with Northampton. But ultimately, Kiskari was able to get the wins where they needed to. Sammy Starr beat Ben Tierpak at 132 pounds. He's a returning state qualifier. Jared Curcio at 138 pounds had a nice win over Alex Shelton, 6'4". And then the biggest match for me was Enzo Meraki taking out state medalist Panero Johnson, 6'5", in ultimate tiebreaker. That was a marathon match, but Enzo was able to come out on top. And then Brandon Roskowski from Kiski was able to take out Kareem Carson by major decision, 8-0. That was a huge win for him. That's a sophomore who's really looking to make a name for himself. So this was really all Kiski, despite the score, because of the 5 forfeits.
So Kiski moved into the semifinals where they wrestled Northampton, and they dropped a 34-22 decision. And really, there was just all close matches. The ones that were toss-ups went Northampton's way.
Yeah, nothing really went right for Kiskari in this match here. Unfortunately, like you said, they lost all the tight ones. They lost 106, 2-1. They gave up a major to Alex Hanley at 113. Sam Hanley was able to get a win over Dom Giordano. Sammy Starr got a nice win, but then things just kind of went sideways there. They opted to bump up 145 up. So Colin Murray gets inserted at 145 against Jagger Condomiti, and he gets a fall. But then Enzo Meraki, Cam Connor, Jack Bloomer, and Nick Delp all get bumped up. And I think that's really what hurt them, is because Enzo lost to Mikey Kistler, but then Cam Connor gets a fall, Jack Bloomer gets a major, and Nick Delp gets a decision. So they wanted more bonus points out of that. They wanted a fall from Jack at 170, probably a major from Nick Delp. But and then 195, I don't think they were expecting to lose that either. Jaden Borch is a guy who's been up and down this season. He's got some good wins, but then he has some head scratchers. And especially after watching Roskowski take out Kareem Carson, a solid wrestler, you would think, okay, Jaden Borch is going to be no issue here. And then he drops that match. He loses 9-8. He loses it in the last period there. So, and then Troy Kuhn, he loses to Blake Lambert at 220, and Hunter Werkheiser holds out Stone Joseph 1-0. So those 3 matches, those critical matches at 195, 220, 285, if you lose those 3, you're not going to win the match.
Yeah, if you win 2 out of the 3, they end up probably winning the match, right?
Well, I would say that, and maybe getting some different matchups down beneath. I would say they could probably get some more bonus points down low a little bit, and I don't know. It coulda, shoulda, woulda. I mean, things happen for a reason, and unfortunately for Kiskari, they weren't able to crack the nut that is Northampton. I mean, they're a tough team. I said that from the get-go is, Northampton, on paper, they don't look like much. They really don't. They have guys with 500 records that are going out and beating kids that are state qualifiers. that's their kind of team that they have. I mean, you look at the schedule that they have, Beast of the East, they go to Bethlehem Liberty, they go to Escape the Rock. So they have a lot of guys with losses over 10, but they find a way to win, and we saw that. I mean, they made it to the state finals for a reason. District 11 this year in general is just loaded. I really do think that the top 4 teams from District 11, Becca, Northampton, Liberty, and Nazareth, all could have placed top 4 here. That's how tough those guys are.
You don't think Kiski would beat either of those, Liberty or Nazareth?
I think they would have a tough time with Liberty for sure. And Nazareth. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. I mean, after watching this weekend, I really do think District 11 could go top 4 here. I mean, yeah, of course Kiski's going to be in the mix with them, but I would not be surprised whatsoever. I mean, Liberty, you have to understand, Liberty beat Becca and Northampton this year. So like they're a quality team that owns wins over the state finalists from this year. So it's hard for me to say that, they wouldn't be favored to finish top 3, top 4 here. So that's just how deep they are.
You look at how the consolations fell. Cannon-McMillan won their first round match against Selinsgrove 51-16 in the round, the consi of 8. Seneca Valley falls to Springford 32-28. Cannon-McMillan beats Dallastown 31-30. And really, Seneca Valley is just about being underhanded there in that match. Yeah, just unfortunately against Springford, I mean, they were just unable to without having those guys in the lineup. Like I said, Drew Vlasnik was out and Chan Shear was out. So it just makes it a little difficult for them to really get the wins where they need it. And especially, as I mentioned, like having that sort of those holes up top. But I thought that Cannon-Mac wrestled really tough. I mean, they beat a really strong Dallastown team who was the District 3 runner-up. And Cannon-Mac, rebounded from that loss to Cedar Cliff. After that loss to Cedar Cliff, I thought, oh boy, they're probably going to lose at Dallastown because that match with Dallastown was closer with Cedar Cliff than Cannon-Mac was, but Cannon-Mac found a way to win. They got some big wins. Jacob Haupt got a major decision over Caden Dobbins at 106. I thought that was a big win for them. Costa Moore stepped out big here. He got a decision as well. Kenny Heyman got bonus on a tough Cale Turnbull, so things kind of went their way here. So things kind of went Cannon-Mac's way, but ultimately, like you said, Cannon-Mac was able to get it done 31-30 and then take out Springford as well. So for them to fall to Cedar Cliff like that and them to bounce back as well as they did, as shorthanded as they were, I was very impressed with them. Yeah, their win over Springford 39-26 set up a match with Kiski, the winner getting a medal, and Kiski defeats Cannon-McMillan 30-24, much closer than the previous weekend where they had a big lopsided win for Kiski. And really it was just about how the matchups fell, and Cannon-Mac got a couple more matchups that they wanted. Yeah, they absolutely did. I mean, Cannon-Mac was able to squeak out some big wins there, and I think just looking at the matchups, it was just they really fell in Cannon-Mac's favor, especially because you look at Troy Kuhn, he gets pinned, right? He gets pinned by Alec Kendall. That's I believe a 12-point swing at least there for Cannon-Mac. And Stone Joseph does win again at 285, but Costa Moore comes out with a decision at 113. Then Jimmy Baxter also gets a win. So they win the first 3 weights here at 106, 113, and 120. So things went Cannon-Mac's way. So that's why you saw it a lot closer than it was previously. With Kiski Area's win, they went into the 3rd and 4th place match, and they would finish in 3rd place. They beat Council Rock South 34-20 for 3rd. Yeah, and I think that says a lot about that team. That Kiski Area team is this is a team that expected to be in the state finals, expected to be battling Bethlehem Catholic for state championship. To take a defeat like that to Northampton and fall down, that's so easy just to fold it up and say, what, we gave it our best shot. And, you just see that happen all the time. And they did not. And I think that's a testament to the coaching staff there to get them refocused and say, you know what, guys, we're not finished here. Yeah, we didn't get what we came for, but guess what? We're still going to leave with our heads held high with medals around our neck. And then they went out and beat a really, really tough Council Rock team. I mean, Council Rock South is one of the teams that probably the most consistent across the board, but Kiski Area was able to come out and beat them 34-20. So really hats off to Kiski because it's so easy to fall down and just throw in the towel. When you look at end of season rankings, I'm guessing PA Power putting one more out for the end of the season. Where do you kind of put things now? Because you mentioned you think District 11 could be top 4, right? And you mentioned that you have Seneca Valley, who was banged up, but they did finish ahead of Cannon McMillan. They did beat them once this year, but Cannon McMillan beats a team that beat them. So where do you kind of rank some of these WPIAL teams here at the end of the season?
So I did come out with final rankings here today, final dual team rankings, and in AAA, it goes essentially Bethlehem Catholic, Northampton, Kiski, top 1, 2, and 3. Then Liberty, Nazareth. So you have Liberty and Nazareth, 2 teams that didn't make it to the state tournament at 4 and 5. Council Rock South 6, Cedar Cliff 7, Cathedral Prep 8, Stroudsburg, who didn't make the state tournament, 9, Canamac 10, Dallastown 11, 12 is Easton, 13 is Springford, 14 is Seneca Valley, 15 is Waynesburg, 16 is Hempfield. So that's how it is. That's how it stacks up, and I think those are pretty spot on in my opinion. Obviously,
yeah, I would hope so. I mean, I'd hope you wouldn't disagree with yourself.
I would hope I wouldn't. No, I mean there was a few I struggled with, and as you said, like Seneca Valley finished. I mean, they beat Canamac, but at the end of the day, they weren't able to get the wins that they needed to in Hershey, and Canamac was. So, it's hard for me to put Springford ahead of Seneca Valley and not put them, they lost to Canamac and they beat Seneca Valley. So, and I think Springford deserved to be where they were. If you look at the WPIAL, though, I think they're placed where they deserve. I mean, Kiski area, they finished third. They are ranked third. I think Canamac, at the 10 spot where they were, I mean, they're just below. They came into the state tournament at 11, so they actually moved up 1. So some
would argue, though, them finishing top 6 in the tournament. Now, granted, you put 2 teams in.
Three teams in.
3 teams in ahead of them that were not at the state tournament, but besides that, I mean, you could make the argument maybe they should be a spot or 2 higher, but then again, who do you put them ahead of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not putting them ahead of. I mean, the only thing you could argue is you could put them ahead of Stroudsburg. That's about it.
Or even Cathedral Prep potentially.
Maybe, but I mean, I would lean towards probably just Stroudsburg, but I think I'm not afraid to debate this, but I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, the best teams don't make it to the state tournament. It's just a fact. Those aren't made up, facts. Those are actual things that happen in life. And unfortunately for those teams, they aren't able to compete there. But if I would rank the teams that were at the state tournament, this would be completely different. This would obviously look different because you wouldn't have Liberty, Nazareth, or Stroudsburg there. So in theory, yes, they could be essentially top 6, but
right,
it's just the way it is.
In AA, where do the end of the rankings fall for Burrell?
Well, Burrell comes in. They came in at 5. They leave at 6. So Reynolds is your top team. Southern Columbia is second. Chestnut Ridge moves up from 6 to 3. Brookville moves from 10 all the way up to number 4. So I caught some heat on social media about Brookville, and rightfully so. I mean, Brookville came out and beat Saucon Valley. They beat Muncie. They beat Notre Dame Green Pond. So Saucon Valley comes in at 5, and then Burrell comes in at 6. So despite I had Burrell pretty highly ranked coming into this state tournament, in my opinion. Not saying they didn't deserve to be there, because I think they did, but you look at where they finished, and I think they're exactly where they belong, because they lost to Saucon Valley. Brookville beat Saucon Valley, so they're right there with them, and that's where they finished at number 6. You look at the rest of the WPIAL, there's obviously a drop off there, right? There's obviously a drop off before, and then Freedom's at 23, Burgettstown I have at 25.
You slide Burgettstown in there and Best Center not in there because Burgettstown beat them in the section championships?
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it's just the way the bracket fell, is that,
right,
if you don't make it, semis, you're not going to have a chance to wrestle back. So.
Right, yeah, because if you put them in a full wrestle back of 8s, and Burgettstown potentially is that number 3 team in there,
right,
but they never had that opportunity.
Right.
Other wrestling action from around the past weekend, the Buckeye local tournament, where a number of WPIAL schools wrestled off, and a number of guys end up placing at the tournament. Yeah,
there was a handful of wrestlers from the WPIAL who competed and did well. West Allegheny was one of them. West Mifflin, another. North Catholic was there, although they didn't have many wrestlers. And Chartiers Valley all competed. And West Allegheny did pretty well for themselves. Obviously, a guy like Jordan Waters, he finished second, had a tough match in the finals finals against Peyton Keller from Warren, lost 2-1 in the finals, but he takes second. Ty McGeary from West Allegheny at 160, he won it and just dominated essentially. He won by fall in the first two matches, 8-3 in his semifinals, and then finals 17-7. So he looked good there. Dante Flatch, he took fifth. Good showing for West Allegheny.
Yeah, Chartiers Valley, 138 pounds. Zach Macy finished in second place. He ended up dropping a 6-5 decision in the finals to Logan Hershey from New Commercetown.
Yeah, and look at West Mifflin. I mean, I thought West Mifflin had some guys that not only surprised me, but did really well here. You start off 113 pounds, and Jesse Gelato from West Mifflin was able to win that championship, won 7-0 in the finals over Eric Reed of Cambridge. So good win for him, a guy who's kind of been maybe on the bubble, if you will, of those regional rankings. And he, obviously came out and did well for them. Tony Salopek from West Mifflin finished second at 132 pounds. Brady Sherlock took seventh at 138 pounds. Frank Guzzi from West Mifflin finished fifth at 152 pounds. And Gavin Rosso took second at 160 pounds.
Hampton, another one of those teams I mentioned during the team portion, they had so many injuries, and they held a lot of guys out for this individual tournament, so guys still banged up trying to get ready for individuals. But Tyler Kokak of Hampton, he ended up finishing in second place. He dropped a major decision to Daniel Segura of Dublin in the finals, but second place finish for him. Speaking of individuals, coming up this weekend, we have the start of individual wrestling happening in AA, and AA sections will take place on Friday, and the first round of the WPIAL tournament will take place on Friday as well, and then the championships on Saturday. A little twist, and the main reason is because of the 5-match rule. They want to try to get that first round in on Friday to be able to stay away from that 5-match rule, and people not being able to wrestle for a medal potentially. I'm not sure how much I like it, though.
What I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we talked about this last year, but what's the deal with why does the District 7 still have sections in AA?
It's those middle teams that have those average wrestlers that they think those guys wrestle for the section tournament. They wrestle all season long for the section tournament. If you eliminate that and make it more about the premier top-end kids, and these kids come into the tournament and go 0-2 or 1-2, then all of a sudden they're not going to come back out the next year. So they want to have the section tournament just for those kids who wrestle all year round for a section medal.
I'm sensing in your tone that you think that's ludicrous.
It's almost like a participation medal.
Well, it is 2019 here, Greg.
I guess. Yeah.
I feel you, and I agree with you. I mean, it's watered down. If we're going to lose guys because they're afraid they're not going to get a medal at the end of the season, I mean, maybe join the chess club. But I mean, I agree that if it's not something that is actually, I mean, is it necessary to have the section tournament? Is my question.
Not at all.
You don't think so? You think you could actually do it the WPIAL tournament without the section?
Yeah, I mean, you move 5 kids into it, and you have 7 kids going from a WPIAL to the Southwest region. Why? So you have a 15-man bracket for the WPIAL championships. Why do we not just put them on? And a lot of those brackets for sections are 2 kids, 3 kids.
Yeah, right.
You might have 6 kids. Maybe one that has 9 kids, 10 kids. So you might eliminate a few kids. But overall, even the thickest brackets that you have, what are you going to have for the section? You might have 28 kids. Okay. What's wrong with the 28-man bracket for WPIALs? Those kids are going to get just as many good matches as they would in the section championships and then going 2-0 in the WPIAL.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you.
Except the only thing is they don't get a medal at the end of the year. And if you think about it, if you want kids to come back and actually put more effort into it, wouldn't you want them to not get a medal so then next year, like, hey, I want to get on the top. I want to be in the top 7. I want to go on to Indiana. I want to be able to wrestle in a regional tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, that was, my goal going in from my sophomore or junior year was like, hey, I want to get to regionals. I had this goal board that I made up, and, I had myself, you cut out a picture and you put yourself on the podium because you're like, this is what I'm working for every day, right? You envision that because you're right. I mean, you want to get there. I knew I wasn't going to be a state champion. Well, I mean, in my head, right. If you don't believe it, you're not going to do it. But I definitely didn't think I was going to be a state champion. I was like, hey, I want to make it to the regional tournament. So, yeah, I get that. And I do understand your point I don't know. I guess it's probably, I mean, I'm thinking more logistically, you know, how logistic this seems like it's a little bit more difficult to do than it would just to have the District 7 tournament. You know, it seems like you're having 2 tournaments essentially in the same weekend.
The kids are going to the same place. So what's the difference?
It just seems weird. It just seems awkward. Like it doesn't make sense.
It's all rushed. On Friday, it's a madhouse, and you have 3 different tournaments going on in one gymnasium, or 1.5 if you want to count the auxiliary gym.
Why not make it, you know, like if you have it at Canada Mac, like why not make it like Powerade and you have a 28-man bracket or something? You know, like
right.
That makes more sense.
It does. It makes
and don't you get and here's the other thing, because I think we talked about this last year, is because of the section tournament, some of these seeds get, you know, some of the guys get some pretty tough draws, right? And you sometimes may not see the best kids always finishing in the top 7 or 8.
Well, yeah, so then they end up seeding 1, 2, and 3 of the section champs. Yeah. So you're not really seeding. So if you have the best 2 kids...
If you have like a section like in AAA, like section 1 or 2, like, you know, you have it where there's a lot of high-quality wrestlers in one section. You finish 4th in a really deep section, you're being punished, essentially, in that district tournament, Greg?
Well, if you look down through our rankings at 160 pounds, here's a good example. Thane Lawrence of Fraser, the number 1 ranked kid at 160. Number 2 for the WPIAL, Austin Malie of Burrell. They're going to wrestle in the section finals potentially on Friday night, and then they're going to be on the opposite ends of the bracket because they're going to seed the section champs 1, 2, 3, and then flip-flop. But now Malie's going to be a 6 seed as opposed to what he should be, which is a number 2 seed.
Yeah, I mean, that's very unfortunate when you have 2 tough guys like that in the same section. And unfortunately for Austin, you know, he comes in at the 6th seed. It just doesn't make sense. You know, just have a District 7 tournament. It's not like we have, I don't know. I don't think that's, and like anyone who says that, well, that's going to hurt us in numbers of participants. Like we're already hurting. Our numbers are already down. Like I really don't think that this is going to make or break wrestling. I really don't think that's the case, but I think it just makes more sense.
And that's really the argument. They say, well, we're already hurting for numbers as it is, so don't eliminate the section tournament, or else we're going to be hurting even more for numbers because those kids won't come out. That's ridiculous.
That's a really poor argument.
Why don't you eliminate it 1 year and find out and see how many kids don't participate because they didn't have the section?
If they're going to quit, if you know, wrestling's tough. Like people are going to quit because they quit. I mean, yeah, that's just if you're going to quit because you didn't get a medal. Like again, like probably wrestling's probably not for you. I mean, I hope it is, and I hope you take life lessons away from it. But at the end of the day, that's not what wrestling's about. So
right, and I hope if you're that worried about it, that you find these weaker tournaments throughout the season so your kids can get a medal. If that's what you're worried about as a coach, is to get your kids to have a medal, because really it should be about the competition and making them better, and not worrying about a medal. Which it seems like some of these coaches who are struggling for numbers, that's what they want to get, is that medal.
Yeah, well, I mean that's not the way I would sell it, but I mean, I guess to each his own.
If you look at the schedule for the WPIAL and the section championships coming up here this weekend on Friday, everything's going to take place at Cannon McMillan. And on Friday, the pigtail quarterfinal, semifinal, first and second round of consolations, all from 3 o'clock till about 6:45.
Does that make? I mean, that just right there is.
Well, it's because
it's crazy.
The brackets are so small, and you have to worry about the 45-minute rule for some of these kids. This section championships is just bad. I mean, it is bad wrestling. Every year, I think I say that, and it just isn't getting much better.
Well, no one listens to you, Greg. We learned it from Phil Mary. That no one from the WPIAL has listened to us and saying, "Man, we should probably eliminate this."
Yeah,
it is a WPIAL focused podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Do you think anyone even listens to this show other than us?
I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. Maybe we should ask a question, like something.
And then pose it and see if people,
But we're not going to post anywhere. We're just going to say it on the show.
Okay.
And then whatever that question is, we'll see if they end up answering it, email, Twitter, whatever, Facebook, whatever. They can do anything they want to contact us.
Well, it's kind of like last season. Remember when I was making fun of you because you have 3 followers on Twitter? Yeah. And then you were like, hey, guys, please follow me on Twitter. And then 2 people followed you.
Well, I got over 100. I'm over 100.
Okay.
But whenever I do tweet, it's for PA Power. It's not for my own personal goal. I really don't get on Twitter outside of for PA Power.
Okay. But, well, you look at the time schedule, then. So you're saying then from
7 o'clock is when the championships and consolation finals are projected to start for the section championships. Then at 9:30 is the opening round of the AA WPIAL championship.
9:30 at night.
9:30 at night, opening round. And you know what? That opening round is so fast, though.
On Friday night.
That's why they have it projected for 45 minutes, because there are so many pins.
it just doesn't make. I mean, who can look at that and be like, "This is this is the best we got." Like, I'm just being honest. Like, who looks at this and says, "Man, this makes a lot of sense. This is great."
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, right? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
If they're going to do it this way, why don't they start earlier?
Is this the best we can do? Because the answer is no. Right?
Yeah.
I think this is crazy. Now that you've got me into this, looking at this, that's nuts.
It's crazy to think they're going to open the WPIAL championships at 9:30 at night on Friday. First of all, why don't you just start it earlier? And I'm guessing you don't start earlier because Ken and Mac, you need the gymnasium.
Sure, yeah.
So they have to start at 3 o'clock because of school. That's the reason why they have to start it so late.
Yeah.
So why even have it at all? It doesn't make any sense.
Why do we have the sections? Yeah. But then you turn around the next day. And we got to do a case study here since no one listens to us anyways, Greg. I want you to do some type of study where you can see all the wrestlers that meet in both tournaments, you know what I'm saying? Like they meet in the section and you wrestle essentially the same guy twice. See how many times that happens.
Oh, I'm sure it'll happen a lot. Mm-hmm. I'll definitely have to take note of that. Quarterfinals will start at 10 a.m. on Saturday, and the semifinals projected for 12:20, and the consolations and the championship finals are set to begin at 5 o'clock. So let's pose the question, Jeff. Here, I thought of it. Are you ready?
Okay. What is it?
Do we eliminate the section tournament and go straight to the WPIAL championships, or do you keep the section tournament?
Answer us on Twitter
anywhere
or Facebook.
Want. Yep.
Or email.
Some kind of, social media, or if you don't have an email the show. So
Jeff.Upson at PAPowerWrestling.com.
Or tweet us.
Or tweet us at PAPowerWrestle.
Or Facebook.
At PAPowerWrestling.
One of those three. We're giving you three options. If you actually listen, we want to hear from you. Yeah, give us one of the answers. And if you don't want to, you just want to say yes or no, we'd like to hear from that too. But we'll see how many people are actually listening and how many of the AA people that are actually interested have opinion on this, because I think it's something that's been talked about for a number of years. One guy who will be wrestling on Friday and Saturday is Jacob Ealy of Hopewell, and he's kind enough to join us now on the show. Joining us now on the show is Jacob Ealy of Hopewell. Jacob, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, you get the opportunity to wrestle in AA for the first time this year. How has the transition been for you to this point? I imagine it hasn't been too much different so far to this point in the season.
Yeah, we've been mostly going to the same tournaments, so that part didn't really change. There was kind of still the same guys at all the tournaments, so not that big of a deal. But I'll definitely be seeing a difference now that sections and states and regionals and all that's kind of starting to kick up.
When you had heard that Hopewell was going to be dropping down to AA, were you happy about it, or were you kind of had mixed emotions on it?
At first I was happy, but then later on I was kind of having mixed emotions. But I mean, I don't know. I was really happy at first, but I got mixed emotions a little bit into the season, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it now.
Well, one thing that we talked about a little bit on the show is the section championships being on the same day as the WPIAL championships starting up. What are your thoughts on it? Do you like the idea of the section championships in AA?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that sections is on Friday, and then I think the WPIAL tournament's the next day.
Yeah, it's actually going to be starting on Friday night.
Oh,
actually,
really?
they're going to have the opening round, and then the quarterfinals will be on Saturday.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's not a bad deal. Kind of get it going a little bit faster, maybe keep it running.
Well, some of the guys that you're going to get a chance to see here coming up this weekend, guys like AJ Corrado, Kenny Dushak, guys you have seen before. How are you feeling going into the tournament? What are your thoughts on those guys?
I'm feeling good going into the tournament. Both of those guys are really tough, so that'll be some good matches if I end up having to wrestle either of those two. I haven't really been to a tournament to see AJ Corrado, so I don't really know how he wrestles, but I'll be able to see him this weekend. And I've been at a couple tournaments with Kenny, and he's really tough. So there should be some good matches.
And Jake, we talked about this, I think, at the Surge, and I thought you were kind of under the radar, and I don't know if it's from being from Hopewell or not, but you earned a state medal last year, and then people started hearing your name a little bit more. Then you come out to the Surge, and I thought you wrestled really, really well. You impressed a lot of people, including your future coach, Pat Pecora, at UPJ. Talk about that shift for you to having a state medal last year to where you are now, and really what that process has been like for you?
I think the really big reason that my name hasn't really gotten out is because I'm from Hopewell and we're kind of smaller and our team doesn't really do that well, so you don't really hear about it. But last year, getting state medal, I really think that kind of brought my name out a little bit, and people started looking my way, and it just it was a big confidence booster and really helped motivate me to try to make the top of the podium this year and just keep working towards that.
And you look at some of the guys you wrestled this year, as you mentioned, Kenny Duszek's one of them. You wrestled a couple times, and Sammy Hilligus you wrestled, and actually just recently you wrestled him and lost 6-4. That was a big turnaround from the last time you saw him when you were tech followed by him 18-1. What was the difference in that first and second meeting with Sammy?
I think after I wrestled him the first time, we really started working on a lot of positions where I was getting scored on, and kind of looked at where I could score from, and we've really just been focusing on that. Like since I wrestled him last recently, we just kind of have really been working on all those positions, and I think it really helped out. And I think I kind of wrestled more of my match instead of kind of his match, and I don't know. I think the biggest difference was just working with my coaches on the positions that I was getting scored on the most. I think that's what helped the most.
Right, and that makes perfect sense. And another match that I really highlighted and thought, man, Jacob Ealy's wrestling out of his mind. That was in the Fred Bell Tournament Finals at 138 pounds when you beat Kenny Kaiser from Sagertown 14-6. He's a guy we got to see at the Surge as well. He was a runner-up to Eric Gibson, but you came out and just your offense must have been on fire. Talk about that and really how you were able to really open it up against Kenny.
Yeah, that was a good tournament. I thought I wrestled really well. I just kind of went out, wrestled my match, and tried to not stop moving and just keep the pace pretty high and get to my takedowns quick. But then once I got a takedown, just keep working on top and try to get a couple turns. And then on bottom, just trying to get off the bottom as quick as possible, and then looking to get at another takedown or something.
Well, Jacob, you decided to, Jeff alluded to Pat Pecora and go to Pitt Johnstown to continue your wrestling career. Talk a little about your decision to commit to Pitt Johnstown.
I just really liked my visit up there, and there was a couple other colleges that I was considering, but Pitt Johnstown, I really felt welcomed there, and I really liked the coaches, and they seemed really easy to work with. And then the kids on the team are super nice and very welcoming. Like the visit up there, I just felt so welcomed everywhere that I went, and I like where it's at and how many people go there. I just like so much about it. And then the academic side, you get a Pitt degree, so nothing there's few that can really beat that, and I just really like that about Pitt Johnstown.
And Jacob, we talked about how maybe you're a little bit under the radar. Now you're really not. You're the number one ranked kid in the state at 138 pounds. Your name is a little bit more familiar across people. Do you feel, I don't know if you want to say pressure, but do you feel like, okay, I kind of have a bullseye on my back a little bit now. I'm not just that kid from Hopewell who's catching people by surprise. Does that play a factor into your mind as you try to win a state championship?
Yeah, I do feel like there's kind of I feel like there's a lot of people trying to take my spot, which that's pressure, but there's always pressure. There was pressure last year, even whenever my name wasn't really out there, but there's definitely a little bit more pressure, but it's not overwhelming.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. It's not to the point where you're thinking about it constantly. It's just something that is in the back of your mind as you go through the postseason.
Yeah.
Well, if there's one thing you're looking forward to this season, there's a lot of differences this year as there was last year in terms of the process, as Greg alluded to, and the fact that there's a lot of these different changes, and you have to wrestle several weeks in a row now, right? Because AA doesn't get a break. You got to go up to the Southwest region and wrestle with guys outside of District 7. Is that something you kind of look forward to because you get to see some guys that aren't typically on your schedule?
Yeah, that'll be fun. I mean, I haven't really figured out. I didn't really know that WPIALs was on they followed into WPIALs on Friday, so that was new to me. But yeah, it's kind of it's a lot more difficult than AAA. It seems like, because there's technically 3 qualifiers, but there's only 2 weekends of qualifiers, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going up to the IUP to wrestle regionals and seeing a whole bunch of new guys and new competition. I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, Jacob, we appreciate you taking some time out to join us on the podcast, and best of luck as you head into the section and WPIAL championships this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks again to Jacob Ealy for joining us on the show. And he's just been wrestling great right now, and he sounds super confident, and I'm excited to see how he does.
Yeah, me too. I really am. I'm excited to see how he does. And as he kind of touched on, it's like this is a different stage for him, being that he's in AA now, and he's going to see a lot different competition. But after that Fred Bell tour, when he beat Kenny Kaiser, and he has wins over Kenny Dushek as well, I really do like his chances of doing well in the state tournament. So we'll see. I mean, I think he's got a lot ahead of him, but I think he sounds like he's pretty prepared for that.
For a full recap of the section and WPIAL tournaments, make sure you join us next Monday as we'll break that down for you and get you set for the Southwest Regional Tournament, which will take place at IUP. Also, we have the section championships in AAA coming up next weekend as well, and so we'll get you all set and ready to go, and can't believe individuals are here.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but it's right around the corner there, and a lot of things are happening. We got college stuff happening. We got the Nationals at Pittsburgh coming up here in a few weeks.
And make sure you get your shirt.
Oh yeah, did you see that?
I saw it.
Do you like them? Yeah, it's. I'm really happy and proud of the shirt. I really love the shirt. It's our state, our sport. It's just something that it came to me as hey, this is Pennsylvania. Right, you're all, the national spotlight is on Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, and the rich tradition of wrestling history here in Western Pennsylvania is so strong that I went away to show that to people. So we had it designed, and we got a picture of the bridge. You got the yellow bridge in Pittsburgh, and then you have it. Our state, our sport. Because when people come in here from out of town and out of state, they're coming into Pennsylvania, right? Yep. And I want to let them know that. So I'm going to be wearing that every day. I'm going to be reminding people, from Minnesota, from California, from wherever you are, that, you're in our town now. This is our sport, and this is where we're going to compete and do well. So, they're online. You can find them on PAPowerWrestling.com. You click on shop, you'll see the Pittsburgh National shirt. You can purchase them and pre-order them now. And as soon as I get them in, which should be in the next couple of days here, I can ship them out to you. So, we're excited for it.
So we got about a month until NCAA.
Yeah, about a month. Yeah.
So you guys have a little bit of time, but don't wait too long.
No, because I'm only ordering a select number, because you don't want to have too many shirts left over, and you're like, hey, what do you want to do with these? Right. So I only did get a handful of each size. So if you want them, I would get them now.
Yeah, most definitely. And make sure you guys are rocking them come next month.
I can't wait, man.
We want to see everybody in them. That's for sure.
For sure. And, we got a lot coming up in the college. We have our college podcast they have Chance Marsteller on the interview. They have a lot of recaps of that Penn State Ohio State match. You can check out PAPowerWrestling.com for updated rankings, right? This is the time of year where the rankings really start to take hold. As we talked about earlier in the podcast, the state dual team rankings, so you can get on there and check them out and complain about, how bad they are and how I shouldn't rank teams that didn't make it to the state tournament, but that's sort of an oxymoron in itself. We got a lot going on at PAPowerWrestling.com.
And keep an eye out. You got guys who have been wrestling at different weights who have been descending down. You may not know about it, but they're going to be going down. Like a guy we talked about a couple weeks ago, Garrett Ninehouse. He's been descending down. He will be going down in weight to 170. So he's one guy of many.
There's a lot of top guys that you just don't know. And that's the beauty of this time of the year, is you get to find out where guys are going, and you get to see firsthand. You're like, man, think about that matchup. I'm thinking about who, if Garrett Ninehouse is going down the 70, man, he could wrestle Edmund Ruth from Susquehanna Township, a guy who's one of the top guys in the state. So, this is exciting. So definitely check out the rankings and everything we have at PA Power Wrestling. And, of course, let's not forget the question that we asked. We're not going to repeat it, but if you've been listening, answer that question at PA Power Wrestling on Twitter, at PA Power Wrestling on Facebook, Jeff.Upson at PAPowerWrestling.com for email. Let us know. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it, and we'll talk about it next week as we look back to see how many guys wrestled on Friday and on Saturday as well. We'll have all of that for you. So I want to thank Jacob Ealy of Hopewell for joining us on the show. For my broadcast partner, Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to War Up on the WPIAL.